Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Welcome,
Sorry, my
Claire.
cam. Sorry, my camera is off for the first few minutes. I am inhaling my lunch because
Relax.
this is the only time.
Oh, bless you. You can relax and take your time with your lunch. I understand why you might not want to be on camera.
Yeah, really not attractive.
No, it's absolutely fine.
Indeed.
And welcome, Mary, as well. You're very welcome to be here. No need for either of you to be on camera, and you're very welcome to. I might work out how I can make myself. Oh, I never understand Zoom. This will work a lot better if I pin myself so that I am the person that Zoom records and I can still see you. Hopefully that is effective. I'm inclined to give it another 2 or 3 minutes just in case anyone else comes. We normally get quite a big turnout, but sometimes we don't. And this might be one of those times, but I'll give it another couple of minutes because I know people sometimes drift in late. So it would be lovely whilst we wait to hear in amidst lunch eating how you found the challenge so far. Big insights, big aha moments.
Really good. It's kind of it's triggering for me for some self-reflection where I've
Okay.
externalized and knee jerk and be like, no, I can control that. I need to rein that in. What can I do to diffuse the situation? I'm in the middle of reading of listening to audiobook as well. Let them. So kind
Yes,
of the
I've
let them,
heard about
let
this.
me.
I've not
Yeah,
read it, but I've heard about it. It's definitely got to go on the reading list. It sounds really interesting.
yeah, it's on Amazon Prime audiobooks, and if you do
Mm,
that, it's free for audiobooks. So,
right.
um, but yes, it's kind of like just releasing some of the frustrations and how can I create it better for myself. So this is kind of doubling up and backing up on that work, which is great.
Yeah, good stuff.
So
Good.
so I've done today's, but on the one question I had the Facebook page, there isn't a day three to put the comments underneath yet. Is that just because I'm too soon?
There is a day three. It's just Facebook is
Ah,
weird and wonderful. We're trying to better link and make more obvious the spaces where you can put your pins. And the difficult thing is, depending on which device you are going to Facebook on or from, where this stuff is visible seems to be different. I only discovered this myself when I was checking for somebody else why they couldn't see what they needed to see. So have a look at the pinned it. If you're on a device where you can see feature things at the top of the group, then you should be able to scroll and find your day 1 and 2 and subsequently your days 3 and 4. If you can't find them there, if you scroll in your day three, if you scroll down, you might find that day 2 and 1 and the Q&A space are below. Failing that, if you're on a device where you can see that there are guides, everything you need is within the guide space, pinned as January 2025 Habits for
okay.
Happiness.
So I'm
My
on my phone, so it's under featured, and I've just found it.
Brilliant, brilliant.
So,
My learning for this, we also have a Success Smith app and we do lots through the app, but I haven't run this challenge through the app yet. And my learning this year has been I think it's time to move this out of Facebook and into our own app where we have all of the right functionality. It's just a bit daunting because doing
yeah.
something like this in the app is going to be a brave new world for us. But I'm a lot of people have struggled with the Facebook. So thank you for raising that, Claire, and hopefully this will help also clarify that for other people that have been struggling. Mary, thank you for your note. No problem at all that you're in the gym and camera and microphone off. That's absolutely fine. Welcome, Jill. Lovely to have you here. And Marianne is about to pop into the room as well. There she is. Hey, oh, connecting to audio. So I'll just give that a moment and then I'll formally open the session. Welcome, Marianne. Lovely to have you here. Yay! There you are. There you are. Me and Marion know each other in real life. So that's always kind of strange to be in the Zoom room with someone that I know in real life. Um, and you're on mute, so I can't hear you. You're on mute, Marion. Classic Zoom fun. And you're also in the meeting twice. Marion, but that's okay. There are two of you. It's not working. Maybe pop it into the chat. Big warm hello to you and welcome everyone. So let me just tell you briefly what I'm going to cover during today's session because we only have an hour. No problem, Jill. Take your time. I want to give a little introduction to myself because some of you haven't met me before, even though I know some of you have. I want to talk just a little bit about the structure of if you're interested in winning the prizes, what you need to be up to. I want to talk about the overarching intention for this challenge, as in my goal for you as a participant. You get to have your own goals around it as well, but I'd like to share that. Then I'm going to do a quick recap of days 1, 2, and 3. And I also want to give you a little sneak peek of the grand prize and what that is, because I haven't actually said what that is yet. And within the midst of that, I want to take your questions. I'll do that before we do I'll do that immediately after I do the recap of days 1, 2, and 3. So, brief introduction to me. My name is Dr. Victoria Stakelum. I specialize in the subconscious mind and emotion. So, I'm a psychologist, I'm a mindset coach, and I also have lots and lots of other tools in my toolkit for helping people get into the best version of themselves. So, I'm an NLP master practitioner, a timeline therapist, a hypnotherapist. What else? I have pranic healing, which is a form of energy healing within my mix, and I'm also an intuitive healer. So I don't always do healing from a structured pranic healing or Reiki place. It happens intuitively when I work with my clients. My background is corporate leadership. So whilst these days I'm all butterflies and crystals, for 2.5, 3 decades, I was like a suited and booted power bitch. I was running a very big show. I was actually a deputy chief executive of a multi-million-pound organization based in the UK with a global footprint. So I had a really big corporate career. And I got to the real top of the corporate ladder. I was in boardrooms and I was traveling internationally and doing all of that. And I hit this point, actually, lockdown really secured it for me. But I hit this point where I was like, this isn't delivering. I thought that when I got to the top of the ladder, I'd feel good enough and I would have arrived and, I'd feel really fulfilled and I'd feel like a person. And I just kept climbing and I just kept not feeling any different. It was like each time I got somewhere, there was always something else and there was always something else. And when I was right at the very top, I had this realization that that doesn't change as long as you're working. For me, as long as I was going to be working for other people, I was never going to feel completely aligned. And part of that is because, and many of you will have experienced this when you work for other people, they often have different values to you. And certainly at the top of corporate business, money as the driver often trumps all else, including integrity and care for people. And for me, that was, it was like I was getting more and more clued into that in my career, and it became too big a gap for me. So I hopped out. The headspace that the lockdown of 2020 created for me helped me crystallize that understanding of myself. So I hopped out, ran away to rural Ireland, where I now have chickens and a storm-damaged polytunnel and 3 kids and the most beautiful dog in Ireland. No offense, Marion, I'm sure your dogs are beautiful. And it's a very different life. It's a very different life. There's much more space. There's much more peace. And the next bit of learning for me was that in stepping out of all of that, my entire identity had to kind of unravel and be reformed. Because when you took out all of that high achievement, I didn't know who I was anymore. Without a VIP badge, I didn't know who I was anymore. If I wasn't leading and driving and making things happen, I didn't know who I was anymore. So I spent about 18 months having to learn a lot, do very uncomfortable deep reflection and figure out who I was when you take all of those things away and be with that. And that was quite an uncomfortable process, but I'm now happily out the other side of. So, of course, it's all of those experiences coupled with the training and certification and experience and learning around all these modalities together that kind of make me the shape that I am, that allows me to support others to do some similar reflection in a big way or a small way, make similar change happen in a big way or a small way. So that's who I am. And thank you for entrusting me with this little interesting 5-day experience that you're having. It's based in some of my favorite and most impactful little tools and reflections. So, a little bit of housekeeping. Actually, no, let me start by my goal for this program. My goal for this program is not, I hate to break it to you, that you come out the other side going, I am happy all the time. I am 100% happy. Life is brilliant. Everything is amazing because I've cracked these tools, right? I've done a lot of work and I am definitely not happy all the time. I have my grumpy days. I have my bad days. Marianne, you see me several times a week and know that I'm not always on amazing form. Jill, you've worked with me for many months and know that, I disclose some of my struggles, right? That is not the goal of Habits for Happiness. The goal of Habits for Happiness is twofold. It's that when you experience those down times, you have a toolkit that allows them to be shorter lived and less intense. So through the things you learn, things are a bit more level. And when you do have the lows, because of external experiences or because of that thing we all have, where sometimes we just wake up and feel low or cranky for whatever reason, we have a toolkit to maybe spend less time there or create less of a, excuse my language, shitstorm around it because we decide to blame it on someone in our life or something we're experiencing. We're able to take responsibility and be with it and then move through it more rapidly. So that really is the goal of Habits for Happiness, is to equip you with a toolkit that means you still experience the glorious roller coaster of being human and living a life, but you do so able to spend less time in the downtimes and experiencing them less intensely through taking responsibility and feeling empowered within your world so that you've got a slightly clearer sense of what to do when you're in that funk, in that space. So that's my goal for the program. In terms of how you can relate to the program, look, you can watch the videos and do nothing else, and you'll get a lot from this. You can watch the videos and do personal reflections, and you'll get probably a bit more from it because you've gone a bit deeper. And like many things in life, what we receive from an experience is strongly correlated to what we bring to that experience. So that bit's up to you. You can, if you love prizes and wish to win prizes, post your daily reflections into the Facebook group, which, as we discussed at the beginning of this video, is a pain in the backside and hides the guides that you need and the spaces you need to post those things too. So it's almost like there's a hurdle. You have to really want to be in the prize to be able to be in the prize, because Facebook makes it so difficult for you to spot the posts that we place there each day for you to put your comments and reflections in. It is worth it to be in the prize draws, of course, but it's also really worth it because when you read those threads, you will see people experiencing the same things that you are experiencing. You will gain knowledge and insights from other people's comments and my responses to them. You'll feel maybe a little bit supported and buffered just by being in that container with others that are on the same journey as you this week. So it's really worth doing for its own self. And also, each day there is a prize, and there is a big prize at the end of the week, which I will announce this time next week, where I will do a bonus live session, which I'll tell you more about then. At the end of this session, I'll tell you more about that. There is a daily prize each day. To be in with a chance of winning the daily prize each day, you have to post in that day's thread that day's stuff, that day's action, before I do the draw. So I've already done the day one draw. I'm going to do the day two draw today. I'm shaking my cup here because I just used my empty teacup to write the names of the people that have participated in day two on little post-it things, and I'm just going to pick one out. There's a lot of names in here. So that's day two. So day one, the prize was access to my masterclass vault, which lives in my app, which has over 35 hours of individual kind of 1 hour or 90-minute long deep dives into confidence, imposter syndrome, how to work with your subconscious mind and intuition, how to get out of a career you hate, lots and lots of interesting things in there falling under different categories, and also a little career success bundle. That was day one. Day two, so today's prize, someone in the cup is going to win lifetime access to this challenge. This challenge closes at the end of this week. I might leave the videos live for another day or two because we will do the final session of the challenge next Wednesday. But after that, it's gone. So if this is something you want to revisit, you want to come back to, then normally you have to buy an upgrade, or outside of the week of the challenge, it actually costs 100 and I think £137 to buy lifetime access to this challenge through the app. For this week, you can buy a VIP upgrade, but we're giving it away to someone today. And that also comes with that same masterclass vault. I'm saying today, and I mean yesterday. Yesterday's prize was that, day two. Today's prize, day three, is the beautiful Insight Oracle card deck. Some of you who have been in my world a while will be familiar with this. So this is what's in the offing if you complete your day three task. It's a journaling deck. So each of these 60 something cards has a set of 4 questions on. This is my incentivizing you all to get involved in day three under a theme. So the theme of balance, the theme of wholeness, solutions, priorities. So this is a journaling deck. So you pull a card each day or whenever you need a bit of guidance, and the card will ask you some questions and you journal on those questions. And it's like a little mini energy guided coaching session, right? So today's prize is the physical deck. And actually, I just decided earlier, I'm going to give you a choice if you are today's winner. You are the person in the cup, which is you can either have a brand new spanking, completely laminated, beautiful version of these for yourself, or you can have my deck, which I have been using for some years, which is, of course, completely infused with all of my energy because I've been doing readings from it. And if you do my deck, I'll sign it for you as if I was a celebrity, even though I'm not. So that is, and I will post it to you wherever you are in the world, or if you live near me, I'll hand it to you, and you win. So laminated, brand spanking new, or used full of gajuju, will get popped in the post to you. So that is the day three prize. Day four is the app-based digital version of this, and day five is that plus on-demand coaching sessions that live in the app. I won't dwell on those too much for today. And then there's a grand prize, which I'm going to tell you about later because I feel like I'm waffling on and I want to hear your questions. So that's a little recap on the prizes. So day one of this challenge, we talked about the importance of setting our intention for how we want to show up. That is about understanding that what we choose to focus on defines what we experience. Where your focus goes, your energy flows. The answer is you, right? That was day one. It's all about having that diligence to set your intention, decide who you want to be in the world. Day two, we talked about catching and noticing those emotions. And when you work with me more extensively, what I teach is how to create a pause so that when those emotions come up, you don't succumb to them. You're actually able to kind of hold yourself and move through them with choice so that you create outcomes that are more in line with how you want to be and who you want to be in your world and relationships. Today, we've talked about circle of concern, circle of influence, and really getting honest with yourself over the things you give headspace to and spend time in that are completely out of your control. What a waste of your energy. Versus those things that are wholly within your control that perhaps you're not actually taking action on, even though if you took action, it would make things a whole lot better. So that's kind of the stuff of day three. So that's a quick recap on where we've been so far. So without further ado, let me know what your questions are. Let's spend a bit of time in your questions. Who would like to go first? Marion, go for it. Oh, except that I still can't hear you. You need to figure out where your mute button is. bottom left.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Let me just mute. Oh, no, unmute that. Sorry, I just hit mute on the wrong one because we had an echo. Can you just do the same again, Marion? Just unmute yourself again. There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, but we're getting an outrageous echo, which is because you're here on video on one channel, so the sound is echoing, but you're speaking on a second version of yourself.
I would like to delete.
So your options, I think, are either to kill one of these so that you're on video just in one and sound just in one, or feel free to put your question in the chat, but you might need a few moments to compose it there and I will read it out for you. Now, whilst you mull that over, anyone else? Would anyone else like to ask a question? Claire?
Is there a way to move some of the things that you think, because it was really kind of, I put all my things down, and then to really see, okay, which ones can I control? Is there anything that can be done on some of the things that you think aren't out of your control? And a way to think about it is like, how can I bring it into my control? Is there any way, anything that you can do to kind of bring more things into your control? Obviously not the neither, because those are the things that I have absolutely no control over. It's out of my realm. But anything that falls under influence, how to bring those more into the control?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that is, of course, the ultimate goal, is to expand influence and reduce the concern you give to things that you truly cannot control. So I'll just briefly touch on the neither column, and then I'll come back to the influence column. So in the neither column, the reason I invite people to post things sort of for accountability and support in the Facebook group is because often we put things in the neither column, which actually, if we're really ruthlessly in the radical responsibility place, in fact, we have more control over than we imagine. I'm not saying, Claire, that you've done this. I'm just saying that's often a pattern I see, is I think it's in the neither column. But when I'm challenged on it, I realize that I could probably do something about this. I just, I'm not there with it. So that's just one thing to note. And by the way, day 4 is all about exactly what we are talking about here. Well, not exactly. It's all about how I don't want to give away day 4. It's a lot about what I can do with the control column and the influence column. Okay, we delve into that on day 4. I think your question specifically is around, how do I increase my influence? Is that right? It's about how do I kind of give myself greater influence over those things that I'd like to impact?
I think it's actually, how do I control more of the influence? How do I bring that influence more into control?
Okay.
But there are, there may be some examples or some scenarios where you say you just can't. It's out of your control. You might, but I would think if you have some influence, is there a way that if you have some influence, the thought maybe you must have some kind of way to pull it into control.
Can you give me an example of something in your influence list that you would love to control?
I even put a picture in the Facebook page today. But work being challenged. So that was one, which was one of my frustrations from the previous day that triggered. So that being challenged, I put in influence, because it involves other people who I can't control, but the reaction to it and how I perceive it has my influence.
Got it. Yeah.
But it's something like that transferable into the control, where I can have some more control, where I don't emotionally react to people, because I just sit there thinking, okay, this is coming from a good place. Can I learn from this? Are they giving good advice? Are they, instead of just put it in, just use it.
Yeah, no, I get it. That's really helpful example. I get it.
Yeah, but bringing that into the control column instead of the influence.
Yes. So first thing I want to say is I hadn't made the connection, Claire, that Claire is our day 1 winner who now has access to all of those goodies in the masterclass board.
Late to the party, but
no, yeah, it took me a while to connect my brain, and it took you a little while to get to your post. So one of your resources in the masterclass vault, which you will have access to before the end of the week, is a session called Transforming Toxic Relationships. I would definitely recommend that you go and have a look at that. There's some good stuff in there relating to the specific challenge of work people doing annoying things. But let me speak to that more broadly because it's a great question. So anything that involves other people, we cannot control. It cannot be in our control column. Even when there are kids or we've got a lot of, even when they work for us, we don't have control. Humans are humans. They're going to do what they're going to do. They can be volatile and unpredictable, but we can have a very strong degree of influence. So when it comes to how other people relate to us, we can have loads of influence and we can never have control. And we can learn the skill of influencing people so that we get much more effective at it. And when you learn that skill, life rolls in ways that feel much more comfortable and enjoyable because your people are relating to you in ways that feel better to you. I don't want to claim that there's like a perfect end line on that. Like my relationship with my husband is way better than it used to be, and he still does my head in. Doesn't always relate to me the way I want, right? Because I don't have control. But things are a lot better because I have a lot more influence and it's practiced and practiced and practiced and I learn and learn and learn. And so things are better. And, the same will be true of your family of origin and the annoying people you work with and, these different things. So that's influence. The control bit, the bit that is possible in a way, is how you respond when people are relating to you in unhelpful ways or in ways that historically have found some kind of fertile ground in you that has you going, this is so annoying. Okay, we have the potential for complete control there. And most of us that are not Zen Buddhist monks practicing this stuff 10 hours a day since they were 6 may never reach that full potential for control, but we can build a hugely improved capacity for that level of control through practice and learning some stuff. And then it can feel much of the time much more in our control. The caveat here, the reason I say our potential for control rather than complete control at all times is because this work that we're talking about, this kind of self-mastery, composure, kind of holding ourselves, being a bit zen, breathing, it is a practice that doesn't really have a finish line. And what I mean by that is it's a bit like lifting weights. And Jill, you've probably heard me describe this before. So let's say my husband, not putting the bins out for me is like a 2 kilogram weight. To use the example I share in today's video, I think I share that one. So let's say that's like a 2 kilogram weight, and I do my practice, and I reach a point where he cannot put the rubbish out. And I'm okay. I'm not going to pick a fight with him. I'm terribly composed and zen. Maybe I have a very mature conversation where I say, darling, maybe we could share the bins going out. Self-mastery, right? But then, I don't know, someone else does something to me and it's a 5 kilogram weight. And I haven't yet got to that level of practice where I'm strong enough for 5 kilograms. So I lose my shit and I shout at them. Yeah. And then a year later, I've done enough practice that I can handle the 5 kilogram weight. But then something bigger happens. My polytunnel is blown down by the storm. Oh, that really happened to me. And that's a 10 kilogram weight. And then I'm like, oh, it's so unfair. The storms, Irish lack of management when my electricity goes out for 5 days. Marion, you can sympathize. Like maybe that's a 15 kilogram weight. And I'm only practiced at a 10 kilogram weight. So that tips me over into that space where I don't have the control. Does this kind of make sense? It's like it's a practice that doesn't have a finish line because there is always the potential for an event to be bigger than my current practice. And in real life terms, in a way, I only get the practice when the trigger is present. So the first time I'm hit with the 15 kilogram event, I'm probably going to not handle it brilliantly. but I've got a good toolkit for seeing that and working at it. And then maybe the next time it happens, I'm a bit better. And then the next time it happens, I'm okay. And this is real, right? So this was my journey. Even so, I was involved in a lot of the things I do now, even when I was still in corporate leadership. And I went from being someone who found particularly some of the politics and people stuff of corporate leadership to be particularly taxing, enraging, frankly. I didn't like a lot of what I saw. And there was a time in my career when I spoke a bit too readily, snapped a bit, let people know what I really thought, which is okay, by the way, but in ways that didn't really serve me or that I felt a bit exposed in later, or that maybe held back some of my success. And then as I learned some of the tools that I share now in Habits for Happiness and that I share with my clients, I actually started to learn to handle myself, control myself much better. My capacity for the events, the weightlifting, grew enormously. Towards the end of my corporate career, I was so able to take and effectively manage in a very boundaried, strong way, properly bad behavior from colleagues, other board members, my shareholders and senior stakeholders, in a way that I was honestly quite proud of. I was proud of myself. People would say to me, I don't know how you held your composure when that was going on. That was outrageous. But I don't think it's an accident that as I developed that capability, I also lost the need for that status. And, it was all linked together by developing that kind of sense of self-control and self-mastery. It's like, in my case, the ego need to be a super high achiever at all times went with it. It's like I became more grounded and okay within myself, and sort of that was the corresponding set of benefits that came with it. Does that kind of make sense, Claire? Does it help?
Yeah,
Tell me what you get from
absolutely.
it. What do you
Yes.
get from it that's most useful to you?
The weight analogy is an amazing way to look at it, just very simple terms. It's just like whatever hurdle you kind of train yourself, and with this course and other ones I do, to handle that better. And then everything, as with everything, practice makes perfect. And there's always going to be something bigger, but you'd be a little bit more armed and prepared
Yeah.
to not. And the positive being, I will never make the same mistake I made when I very first started the program. The very first, when I made that first blow up with the tools I'm engaging in, I will never make that mistake again.
Yeah.
In the lower in the £5 league.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I won't when it hits the 15 or 20, because like you said, until you experience it, you don't know.
Yeah.
But you're kind of building up a tolerance, or I'm building up a tolerance, which I'm seeing the benefits of. And it's just, even with that one, the workplace one, I reached out to them separately to try and pull it more into my control and say, hey, what's the challenge? What's going on? Can you help me understand? So that I could just gain more control over it and not going off on a tangent with my brain saying, well, I'm just not good enough. They're just going to run it without me. They don't need me. I might as well just quit. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Those went through my head. It's just keeping them.
Yeah. And look, that having that composure, again, the goal of that is not that we don't say boo to a goose and we become, those people that seem so sort of at peace with everything that they become a bit of a pushover like that. In my worldview, that's maybe has different corresponding issues. It's about having the ability to tackle things that need to be tackled, to confront things, to hold your boundaries, but to do so in a way where it's not so taxing and draining on the emotions, because you've been able to experience what you need to experience emotionally, and all emotions have merit. They're there for a reason. We just don't want to dwell in them. We don't want to get sort of bogged down by them. So we need to experience the emotion to help us understand what we need and take action on it, and then take the appropriate action, having released the emotion. Because, I mean, the thing here, Claire, and you sort of articulated it, is, when you react to something from the emotion, all the person gets is the emotion. The emotion is far more powerful than the words we might be saying, which might have real merit. Whereas if we can hold it, let the emotion subside, and then speak from a kind of clearer emotion or smaller emotion place, typically it's much more effective at creating a positive outcome, particularly where relationships are concerned. There are some caveats to that. Sometimes an angry response is absolutely called for and the only way to cut through something. But I would say that would very, very rarely be the case in a professional environment. It is sometimes the case in a more kind of home life, personal, friend relationship type environment sometimes. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Jill, unless your question directly builds on Claire's, I'm going to come to Marion next. Is that okay? Or is what you need to say, is it linked to Claire's? Should I come to you next? Okay, go ahead. Don't worry, Marion, I haven't forgotten you.
So I did have a different question, so I will park that one for now. But
we'll come to that next.
Claire, but Claire's question made me think of a couple of comments and a question, which is, even though you might, because I've done some work with Victoria, you might have the £5 weight sorted and you're going up to the next one. It doesn't mean, for me anyway, that I still drop the £5 weight sometimes. So something might happen and you think, oh, I thought I got this, and now a situation happened yesterday and I thought, what, God, why have I've got hold of something and I can't let it drop, and why didn't I just let that drop because I've not taken that breath?
Yeah.
So sometimes that's the case. And then, although I feel that I have made improvements and I do pause and sometimes in control, the question is that, so if I've got control of a situation and I respond in such a way so I then don't get a load of rubbish back, I had a situation at the weekend where I then, even though I did that, I was still really frustrated, and that frustration and anger I held on to for like 2 days, and still a bit now, even though I reacted, I think, better.
Yeah.
And sort of in a way so as not to escalate the situation, it still really drove me mad and I almost can't let it go. So it's about reaction, but then also you need it to flow over you as well somehow. And I know that's probably opening up loads of other things, but
yeah. Okay, so actually, I'm really glad you said that, Jill, because one of the things that was on my mind and then promptly went out of my mind when Claire was saying about never having to go back to that base level stuff is I meant to say something, and you've effectively said it, which is my experience as well, by the way, which is sometimes even the old 5 kilo thing that we thought we'd sort of moved through pops back up. My take on this is that, right, the kilogram thing is a metaphor. In reality, that event is not just comprised of the event. It's also comprised of how much sleep we got the night before, whether we consumed sugar or caffeine or had a drink that day or the night before, what stage of our monthly cycle we are in, or our life cycle we are in, particularly as women, what else might be going on in our world. So my experience of this is that when my capacity for heavier weights is massively influenced by those things. What I'm consuming, my energy level, what else is going on in my world. And I think that's important to remember, is we can beat ourselves up for the fact that we kind of went gajunk. But if actually that 5 kilogram weight is not just comprised of the thing in front of us, but also all of these other things, well, it's not a 5 kilo weight, it's actually a heavier weight. So, and Jill, in your personal example, some of the training you did was within a very intensively supported space, and now you're learning to do it on your own. So the metaphor there is, it's a bit like you got your 5K lifted when I was there spotting you, and actually so was a whole group of other people, and now you're learning to lift that 5K weight without the people spotting you, and sometimes you get it and sometimes you don't, and as long as you keep working with it, your capacity will grow. There's no finish line, guys. That's the sad punchline. But you do grow. Your capacity does grow. Specifically on the example you gave where something happened at the weekend and you held your composure and you did it all right, but you're still actually secretly like, oh, this is so annoying. Couple of things on that. The exercise of today, concern, influence, and neither, is worth reflecting on. There may be a follow-up conversation to be had. When we hold an energy like anger, of which resentment is an internalized version, right? So the emotional energy of anger is anger when it's expressed outwardly, resentment when it's kind of internalized. The negative emotion of anger is there to create an energy that has us take action. It means something needs to be done. And you might have already taken that first action in having a calm conversation, even though you were still feeling like this. But if the thing hasn't changed, or you apparently haven't created the impact you hoped to create, then the fact that you're still feeling this way may mean that you haven't yet taken all of the action you could take in relation to this. It could mean that there's more. That can be one thing, because sometimes the emotion persists when there's still more action to be taken. But some things are outside of our control. So the next thing I would send you to, Jill, and I say this because I know that you've worked with me and you'll understand what I'm saying, and apologies to the rest of you, is you have a toolkit. So when you're carrying unhelpful emotions, use your Sedona method, go back and do your anger release. Like, use them live time, because they are your ongoing version of that someone spotting you. Yeah. To see whether you can shift it, to see whether you can release it. And I would say in the example you have given, I know you haven't given details, but if it's real, as in it's not because you're bringing baggage from the past that's creating the anger, if it's that the things happening are actually not okay and but they're still happening, the Sedona method is your friend. Shorter, sharper, use it ongoing to soften and diminish the effects of what you're experiencing. And that's in some of your resources from when we were working together. Is that okay? Does that make sense? Great. I know you've got another question, but I want to come to Marion. Hopefully, Marion, we can hear you without evil echo.
Hello.
Yay, there you are. Tell us,
I don't know
Marion.
what happens anyway, because I wanted to come on time. It's me on time, but it told me to upgrade Zoom. And I'm like, oh no! So I had to do it, and it took for ages. So
Boo.
anyway,
No problem at
yeah.
all.
So it's a bit weird, I guess. What I'm going to ask is actually, I didn't get the day today. I mean, the video. No,
So,
day one, day two, no problem. Easy. I had something right in my head what to write down. Today, I'm like, no, I don't know, because I would argue every practical thing into each thing in each column.
so just so I understand, you can take a something and you could theoretically place it into any of the columns.
Yeah.
Okay. So the simple answer to what you are sharing is if you could argue it into the control column, that's where it goes.
Yeah, but it doesn't. Let's talk about the beautiful storm we had, and now I heard that we are going to have on Friday an even worse storm.
Yes.
I'm angry. So, but I don't have the control about it. What can I control? I can't say, you better go away, Storm. I mean, I can say it, but
Got
it
it. Okay, so that's a great example. Thank you for giving us such a specific example. So the weather is truly one of those things. I'm trying to think about that. Well, okay. This always happens as I talk it out. I think, no, that could be control, right? The weather in the immediate moment of where we are, I could concede as in the neither column, right? My questioning, could I concede that was, well, you could move to a country where the weather is less volatile. That is within your control. So where you choose to live and the weather in that place, that's not even under your influence. That is 100% in your control. Yes, you would have to leave behind the life that you've created here, but that is a choice that is 100% in your control. So the weather where you live right now, expected on Thursday and Friday, that is in your neither column. But your choice to live in an environment where that is the annoying weather, right? That's 100% in your control. And as I say in today's video, I'm not going to kind of pretend that it's all easy and light, that to take that kind of a choice wouldn't have lots of corresponding consequences. And radical responsibility as an outlook says, well, that's in your control. The fact that there's a storm expected Thursday, Friday isn't, of course. So that's one thing to kind of reflect on. Linked to that then, so Thursday, Friday, well, maybe you could just fly away somewhere sunny for Thursday flying. That's potentially within your control, depending on your financial setup. The other thing is how you relate to that then. And this links back to the Claire conversation, in terms of when something outside of you that you really can't control, like people or the weather, people you can influence to a massive degree, but the weather less so, or not so. The bit that's very much within your control is how you choose to relate to it. And
That's then with everything. With everything, I put under control because I can control how I react to everything.
yes,
So my column for control is overflown with things.
congratulations. What an incredible set of insights. Like, I get to choose.
But this is more sometimes the after thing. I'm angry about the weather. I know I can choose to live somewhere else, but this is then afterwards. Well, maybe not with the weather. But like your example with the bin,
Yes.
I can be angry that it doesn't happen or that he didn't do it, but my control is how I react. That's it.
Well, in the case of the bin and in the case of the weather, that is not the limit of my control. That is the limit of my control if, sorry, let me think about this. Yes, that is the limit of my control after the event and possibly even as the event is occurring. But when I know an event is coming, or when something has happened that I want to influence, when a repeated potential something is happening, I have lots of choices. So, in the case of my husband and the bin, after the event has happened, I can have an adult conversation and strive to influence that situation, or I can incentivize my children to do it, or I can pay someone to come and do it once a fortnight for me. Extreme example, but that would put it mainly within my control. My emotions in relation to something that has happened, that is also in my control. If I know that something is going to or likely to happen, like adverse weather events, to a degree, I can choose to control my exposure to those things. So it's not just my emotional responses that are in my control. It's also the choices I make in relation to my exposure. To try and sort of summarize this, perhaps in a slightly different and maybe more helpful way, I don't know, you can tell me. When we don't like things, we have three choices, and they link directly to today's framework. We can change the thing, as in, if it's an environment, take ourselves out of it. If it's we don't like the weather, move somewhere where the weather is different. It's divorce my husband because he doesn't change the bins, right? I can change the thing out there. I can't always, but sometimes that's my option. Or I can change the way I'm showing up in relation to those events to influence them. I can't do that so much with the weather. I can definitely do it in relation to people and work stuff, like have different conversations that create different outcomes. Or I can change myself. I learn to manage my emotional responses when things don't go my way, like bad weather destroying my polytunnel and leaving you without electricity and water for God knows how long, and me actually. So those are my choices. Change the environment, using my spidey skills, or change myself. Learn to manage my emotions so that this stuff doesn't bother me. These storms for me now, Marianne, are definitely within my 5 kilo weight. I can handle them. And they tore down my 2 gram polytunnel. I can handle them. I find the joy within them. And, I don't love that I can't wash sometimes for 4 days, or I have to drive somewhere to have a wash and that we're without electricity. But it doesn't make me unhappy or angry. It just makes me go, God, when is this country going to sort out its infrastructure? But I'm much more joyful about the life I have here than the trade-off is one that for me is right. If it wasn't, if the benefits of living where I live were not sufficiently high to balance the adverse weather effects that cause such disruption here, I would move. And that would be the case, even though that would be really disruptive for my family and kids, if collectively we felt the benefit.
The high potential of moving, you can't move right today. Usually not. There's a bit more to do than just moving.
Correct. You can't move today, but you could hop on an airplane and go for a long weekend in Tenerife. I just came off a call with a friend there, and it's
If
18
you
degrees
have the money for it, I will do that.
yeah, yeah.
That's another thing if you have the money for that, yes.
Yeah,
But
absolutely. And then there's the choices you make. What am I spending money on that I could instead spend money on not being in an environment where I don't like the weather? It's like, it's all about realizing I can sit here and feel angry, or I can use state changing methods to shift that anger, some more of that over the course of the week. Or I can go, this anger is telling me something. I am not aligned to where I'm at. I need to make change happen. And I'm going to look at how I make change happen. And if I haven't got the money to do that right now, well, I'm going to work at how I create that money, which at the easy end is take a credit card and suffer the consequences. At the harder end is buy less, save more, make adjustments in my life so that I can, every time there is a storm predicted, fly off to Tenerife. It's the Tenerife slush fund, or and that's what I create for myself. And then I never have to be angry about a storm again, as long as I get ahead of the storm arriving, because I don't want my flight grounded. Do you see what I mean? There's ways of living this stuff that make it possible in one of those spaces. It's not easy, by the way. I'm not saying any of this is easy, but you get to choose to carry on feeling like you're feeling, which is okay if that's okay for you, or you get to choose to bring the effort and intention to experience it differently in one of the ways I've described. You get to choose. I don't mind.
not sure.
No, we'll reflect on it. Reflect on it. See where you land.
I know what you mean. Yes, you can do that all in your head. It's just sometimes you still feel trapped because you can't react in that moment. And if your husband, you can talk with your husband about the bin, lovely, mature, nice, friendly, and the next 10 times it doesn't happen, you're going to get angry, and you won't divorce your husband just because of a bin, I assume. If everything else is lovely, you won't do that just because of a bin. But it's the control. I can go out with a bin, yes, but this is not the thing that I have the control to do it all myself. You have to rely on other people too. So I'm just really difficulties to struggle to put things today in.
So, Marion, you are on day 3 of a 5-day challenge where you already knew some of the sort
Yeah.
of information. You're running up against your current weightlifting capacity, right? You're right. I wouldn't divorce my husband over even 10 times not bringing out the bin. That if that was symbolic of a relationship in which when I shared my needs, they were ignored, I think
Yeah,
that would be a
different
different place, of
story.
course.
Yeah,
And
that's a
usually
different
something
story.
that's true in one place is something in another. But if in the round my husband was a glorious, wonderful human being, lucky me, he is in the round, not perfect like all of us, then I would make a choice. I'm going to stop being angry over the bin because he's magnificent in all these other ways. And it's not symbolic of me not being heard or having a voice in my relationship. It's symbolic of, for whatever reason, he's got a thing about the bins and he's not going to do it, you know. And I would probably know that because I'd
But if it makes you so angry, you have to think why it's so deep rooted in you that it makes you so angry.
bang on, bang on. If a small external trigger, small, everything's relative, right? If a comparatively small external trigger has that effect on me, it will often be the case that it's because it's connecting into this fertile ground of something much bigger. And that is that we're not doing that work this week. We will touch on it at next week's Q&A, which is 90 minutes, not 60 minutes. I will touch on that because that is absolutely where many people arrive at the end of this challenge is I see benefits, I've moved forward, but I'm still hitting a bit of a every weight seems too big. And look, there are places to go from there for sure. And I'll talk about that framework next week. Okay.
Sure.
Thank you. Great question. Let me now, Jill, you had another question. I'm mindful of time, so I'm going to ask you to ask it quick and I will answer quick.
I'm not too worried about it. It was just I was just thinking it was more about with the day one intention setting. I was thinking about different things like, I must be positive and calm. I must be, and a few things that I wanted to put, but I felt really like I couldn't do those that day. I felt too tired, overwhelmed, or whatever. So that's why I did the one I did, which was something about kindness and self-care to myself. So is it, I suppose my question is it okay to go, oh no, that's too much today. I can do and choose a different one.
Absolutely. I'm so
Yeah.
glad you did ask the question. I want to talk really briefly to this one. Firstly, any intention setting that sounds like I must is probably not going to create
No,
great
I wouldn't
energy.
have said it like that. But yeah,
Um,
I will be positive and calm. But I thought I really don't know if I can be positive today. I don't feel very positive.
Yeah, and the fact that even if it's not the language you would use within the intention when you described it, that was the word you
Yeah.
used, right? So that tells you what your subconscious was thinking is I must, but actually I don't want to.
Mm.
So you may remember, Jill, when we've talked about transactional analysis, parent, adult, child type language. Anytime you set an affirmation or intention or anything in this kind of personal development world that has your sort of critical voice go, no, you won't, no, you can't, not today, or even the more kindly one that says, you're not able for this today,
Yeah.
you need to either soften it, which in the case of the example you gave, you might have said, I will aim for. I will just
Mm.
aim for that thing. That would have been something you could do. So it softens
Mm.
it. You're not saying I will, because a little part of you knows that you might not, but you're going to strive for it.
Yeah.
That might be one thing if you have the capacity energetically. The alternative is absolutely make it something that you know you can do as long as you kind of keep a bit of focus on it. That's absolutely
Mm.
perfect. One of the myths of self-development, in my opinion, given that my specialism is the subconscious mind, one of the myths of self-development, it's a very masculine energy approach, is to do this. Speak this truth and it shall be so, drive yourself towards it. What happens is when we do that, we get counterpoint energy that is more resistant than if we just relaxed in the first place. It can do more harm than good. If you've read about affirmations, if you are saying, I am a magnet for great abundance and wealth, and you're saying it to yourself in the mirror every morning, and every morning the other little voice goes, no, you're not, because you can't pay the bills this month. That is
Yeah.
counterproductive. You're actually strengthening that counterpoint voice because it's got something to speak out on a daily basis. So I always say soften it. I see that it's possible to become a magnet for abundance and wealth. Fine, softeners. So whether you soften or whether you choose something that feels real, you have to believe it's possible for you when you're setting an intention that day.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
So full permission to do what is right for you there. Right, I just want to quickly wrap up the session because we've got 2 minutes to go. So the grand prize is access to a new program that we are launching, that we will officially launch at next Wednesday's session. It's a 10-week program that takes you on a journey to deal with many of the things we've talked about today, from learning and developing that practice around self-composure to building your degree of belief, self-empowerment, confidence that you get to make these changes and that they are okay, um, and really to be guided and supported through in much more depth. That is the grand prize, to be in with a chance to win the grand prize. And that program, by the way, kicks off early February. It has weekly sessions with me. It's a phenomenal program. It's brand new. To be in with a chance of winning that grand prize, you need to have posted on each of the daily threads. So there need to be 5 posts from you in each of the 5 daily threads, but you don't have to have done it within that day. I'm saying this partly for the people that are watching this on the replay. You need to have posted in each of the daily threads by the time I make the grand prize draw, so that I can see you've engaged fully with this program. Because if you've engaged fully with this program, you will absolutely be ready to go in deep to the 10-week program that's designed to follow on from it and give you a much deeper and greater capacity around all this stuff. So I just want to mention that for you guys, for the people watching on the replay, it's not too late. You can cram watch your videos on Friday and go back over the daily posting. I wouldn't advise that, but if you need to, that's okay. And if you really hate Facebook, I might send this video out on email, so this might still be relevant. Or if you really don't want to be engaging with Facebook, you can send your daily responses to hello@thesuccessmyth.com for each of the days, and we will still include you in the grand prize draw. So I just wanted to make that clear to everyone so that everyone knows. And I will give the full reveal on that new program soon. very soon, in case anyone else is interested in exploring it. Okay, so there we are, Q&A done. Congratulations on coming this far. Stay with it, and thank you. Thank you for your commitment and engagement to your own happiness, because it forces good vibes out into the world when you do your own work.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Take care, everyone. Have a good rest of your day.
Bye.
Bye.